Hello, and welcome to a very sweaty summer version of Hollywood Kitchen. I'm here at my apartment with my friend and film historian and writer, Laini Giles, and she's visiting all the way from Canada, so I'm so excited to have her here.
So excited to be here.
She's written a new book. It's a novel, but it's based on a tremendous amount of historic research about silent film actress Olive Borden. So for some of you, Olive Borden may be an unknown name, and she's obscure even to certain fans of silent cinema. So we're going to talk about her life, her career, her food, and much, much more. So Laini, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much. I'm so excited to finally be here. I have been a religious Hollywood Kitchen watcher.
Thank you. So. Thank you so much.
Get to star. Bye.
Yes. And it is so hot in here. We're just going to do our best here. Apologies. Oh my gosh. Tell us about Olive Borden, because, I mean, again, a lot of people may not know about her. So tell us all about her and why you chose to write this new great book about her.
I am always interested in sort of the very poignant what might have been stories. And Olive was born to a man from Massachusetts and a mother from Virginia. She was born in 1906. July, she was a Cancer. And either Richmond or Norfolk. It's often debated which one she was born in. She spent time in both in Virginia. And as a child, her father died when she was a baby. So her mother had to raise her alone. She also had a little brother who was born and died very early as a baby. So her mother was quite possessive and quite protective of her, became her best friend. Also kind of her worst enemy. I think as a child of a single mother whose father also died very young, I could identify with her quite a bit. I think that's probably part of the reason that I chose to write about her, because I found this story very fascinating. She started off kind of doing, actually, she told her mother when she was young, she didn't want to go to school anymore. Her mom's like, well, what do you want to do? Because you're going to have to work. What do you want to do in life? She said, I want to be an actress. So she says, all right, well, we'll try to make that happen. And they moved out to Hollywood when she was still pretty young. I want to say she was maybe 16 or 17. And she was taking whatever kind of roles that she could take. They opened a candy store for a while.
Which I found a candy recipe also.
Yes. I found it like a meringue recipe. And that didn't do very well. It failed not too long after they opened. And she was pretty discouraged. Some of the directors were telling her, you're terrible. Don't do this anymore. Go find a job. Finally, I believe it was Paul Byrne got her a role in The Dressmaker from Paris and kind of helped her on her way a little bit. I think she did a little work for Senate, extra roles and things like that. And then Tom Mix discovered her and put her in a movie. And that was when things started to kind of turn around a little bit. She got picked as a Wampus Baby star, and that was all she wrote. So she ended up showing up in Three Bad Men. John Ford, and that was pretty much her star-making role. And she happened to meet George O'Brien during the course of that movie.
Very good-looking man.
Very good-looking man. They called him the Torso. And if you see pictures, you know why.
You know why.
I'm gonna. And so they become an item. And this book kind of deals with their romance, with the making of Three Bad Men, and it kind of takes it from there.
So we'll take intermission on talking about her, and we'll talk about the recipe. Because it is so burning hot, we are trying to make really cold weather recipes that do not require that stove over there. So this comes from the photoplay cookbook of the late 1920s, and this is called Pineapple Charlotte. So, all right, we've got 2 teaspoons, 2 teaspoons of granulated gelatine. I'm just going to go over the ingredients first. A half cup of cold water, a third cup of boiling water, 2 tablespoons of sugar, juice of half of an orange, and 1 cup of shredded pineapple, and a half pint of whipping cream. Now it says soak gelatine in cold water for 10 minutes. So let's put the gelatine in here, I guess, and we'll soak it.
Spoon or something.
Yeah, I'll kind of mush it in there as best as I can. Okay.
Usually they put the gelatin in hot water, which kind of surprising they're putting it in the cold water. Oh, you have to add the boiling water and the sugar to that.
Okay, let's see. Okay. Why don't we put it in the Jello mold? Let's do that. So, okay, so we're gonna put the gelatine and the cold water in here. Add boiling water and sugar. So we're gonna add the boiling water. Okay. We're gonna add the sugar. Stir this until all ingredients are thoroughly dissolved. Okay. Then you add we didn't soak this in the water for a full 10 minutes, but I don't really know that that's going to be an issue because it's already kind of dissolving.
Yeah, usually they put it in the hot water to dissolve,
Yeah.
and then you add the cold water.
Yeah, this is kind of backwards.
This is going to work, and
fingers crossed. We will see. We will see.
I made plenty of Jello in my time, and that's how we always do it.
Okay, then add juice of half an orange. I got a fresh orange and we juiced it here. Juice of half an orange. Okay. And then we're going to add the shredded pineapple. Okay.
Shredded pineapple. 1 cup?
That is 1 cup. I shredded the heck out of it in my food processor here. Okay, so we've got this. And it says mix well and put in ice box to cool. So we're going to mix this well. I'm going to show it off for the camera so you guys can see what this looks like. such as it is. Okay, I'm going to put this in the refrigerator in a minute. But before I do, we will just talk a little bit more about Olive Borden, actually, because things didn't end well for Olive. So let's talk about, actually, you know what, let me put this in the refrigerator and then we'll talk about it.
Okay.
So we'll do this while this is cooling. Okay.
This is my first experience in Carrie's kitchen, and it is very small. I don't know how she does it. It's amazing.
It's kind of a miracle how I get anything done. It really is. So, okay, so Olive becomes a star in John Ford's Three Bad Men and The Dressmaker of Paris. Mm-hmm. She has this relationship with a very good-looking man named George O'Brien, who we know from Sunrise and many films of Janet Gaynor. Mm-hmm. Then what happened? What went wrong? What unfolded?
As sound begins approaching, Olive is asked to take a pay cut because Fox does not know how this whole sound conversion is going to go. They don't know if they're going to have to get new stars and replace the ones who don't sound test as well. And on probably the advice of her stage mother, she decided, you know what? Nope, I'm not going to take a pay cut. You guys can do whatever you want, but I'm good enough and I'm better than everybody else, and I'm not going to take a pay cut. And so they went, okay, see ya. Bye-bye. And that was it for her contract with Fox. And she and her mom were like, okay, well, we're going to go find something at Universal, or, you know, Paul Byrne will help us out at another studio or whatever. And that didn't happen. Wow. Fox started basically giving her a black eye in the press and saying she was temperamental, she was hard to work with. Kiss of death. And she was not finding work. She did eventually start finding work at places like RKO, at FBO. She was able to kind of do that hop, you know, on Poverty Row between the lower budget studios, but she never quite got that cachet back that she had. Wow. And George's star was up and coming after he made Sunrise. He was shooting off like a rocket. Yeah. And it started causing a lot of friction in their relationship, especially because they both worked at Fox. He would want to go to these Fox parties. She was like, no, I'm embarrassed. I don't want to go. And he's like, well, I have to go. It's my job. And so it started really affecting their relationship. They had become engaged. And then I think around 1929-ish, that just kind of faded and you didn't hear about him in the press anymore. And that was it. So, yeah, it was very sad that the love that might have been.
So then, okay, so she breaks up with George O'Brien. Sound comes in. She's basically written off by her studio. Then what? I always kind of wonder when looking at a lot of these stars' lives, what is that second chapter? You know, what do they do kind of life after Hollywood?
she decided that she was going to try to do the VOD circuit in
Vaudeville?
New York. Yep. So
Mhm.
she decided she was going to go for a change of scenery. She heads
Okay.
for New York. Starts, does one or two play roles. They're kind of giving her credit for, working out of her comfort zone.
Okay.
Nothing is super, super successful. But she's making do as best she can. Is in one or two kind of off Broadway roles, and ends up meeting this Theodore Stewart, he called himself. His real name was Teddy Spector. Teddy had a wife in Buffalo already that he didn't bother to tell her about, that he thought, oh, she's probably already gone ahead and filed for divorce. We were married in 1919, but he just never bothered to tell Olive about it. He had also gone to jail. He had some sort of theft or something that he had pulled off, and he had gotten the first wife sort of involved in too. She didn't go to jail, but he did. And so he courted Olive. There was a story about her being out to dinner with Anna May Wong. I'm blanking, Claire Windsor, and there were one or two other ladies. They were out to dinner, and he just basically sort of kidnapped her that night and said, we're getting married. And they eloped. They were going to run off to Greenwich, Connecticut, but there was evidently a residency requirement. So they couldn't go to Greenwich. They ended up going across the border to a little town called Harrison, New York, and got married there. And I am not sure if he told her up front that he was Jewish or not, but it came out later that his name actually was not Stewart, it was Spector. And so that kind of crops up in the book as far as, why he's not eating pork and this kind of thing. He lived in Paterson, New Jersey, which was also not the most conducive address to wanting to perform on Broadway. You got to be doing that schlepping across the river. And so she ended up finding out about the first wife when she just got disgusted at him and had enough. I don't know what the final straw was for her, but there were stories that came out in the press about she was going to be divorcing this guy. And the first wife said, wait a minute, Teddy Spector, Theodore Stewart, stockbroker, that's my Teddy.
Oh, gosh.
So it becomes this big, huge deal in the papers that, oh, Olive Borden has buried this bigamist. So that was the next chapter for her, and it was not pretty.
Wow. So I'm assuming the bigamy scandal probably killed her vaudeville prospects.
There were not a whole lot of vaudeville prospects.
Not when sound came in.
Not when sound came in. Vaudeville was already starting to die.
Yeah.
And she was having to kind of look elsewhere for work already. And because of the Depression, not that many people were able to go to shows anyway. So sadly, so she ended up going to England for one or two pictures, started having issues with her health as far as her mental health. She was not doing well. As you can imagine, if you'd married a bigamist and all of this has come out in the press, she is starting to take Nembutal, prescribed by an English doctor when she was over there, and was in a movie called Help. Not the Help with the Beatles, obviously, but a different Help, where she played kind of a thief. And she really had fun with it because she had become famous for having to wear lingerie and these very skimpy costumes. She was either an acrobat or she was a native girl, or anything where they could put her in as few clothes as possible was what she had become well known for. And she was getting really tired of it. And she was typecast as exotics because she was actually Black Irish. She had dark eyes and dark hair, but she was, like an Arab girl. She was a native girl. She was Mexican.
They would slot you into anything that they could.
So she's like, okay, can I please put some clothes on for one of these roles? So she was very excited that she got to play sort of a thief in this.
Okay.
But so upon her return, she was asked to be in a movie down in Florida for this very, very shoestring outfit outside of, I believe it was St. Petersburg, Tampa, kind of that area, called Weedon Island. They had come up, created this little low budget studio. The movie is so bad. It's Chloe, Love Is Calling You. And the casual racism in it is just not to be believed. It is on YouTube if you want to check it out. I managed to sit through it, but it's not a good film. It's just
Well, that leads to another one of my questions is when you brought up doing this episode, my response was, I think I've only seen one Olive Borden film, and that's the John Ford Three Bad Men, because she's not someone whose films seem to be very widely available. What can people see if they do want to see an Olive Borden film?
Three Bad Men is on YouTube. Chloe Love is Calling You is on YouTube. Okay. There are little bits of Fig Leaves, which is very cute. It's sort of a parallel timeline. So you have the Adam and Eve old time thing where they've got like the animatronic dinosaurs, and then you've got the modern day couple, Adam and Eve Smith. And what was the deal? She's like walking down Fifth Avenue or something, and she gets hit by a cab. And so they take her into this fashion designer's salon. And I think she's having like a dream sequence or something. And they're contrasting that with the old time characters. And it is very cute. And gowns by Adrienne. So of course, you have a lot of really beautiful clothes that she's modeling. So even if they are skimpy, you're getting quite a...
Is that on YouTube?
Clips of it are. It's not the full movie, but clips of it are very cute. And then there are one or two of her 30s roles that are also out there that I didn't study quite as well because I didn't go into as much of the detail of shooting them. Pajamas was filmed in Canada, my Canadian friends, and it is not on YouTube. I had to kind of fake it as well as I could based on descriptions at the time of what it was about. She went up in an airplane and there was a near accident in the air. Oh, wow. So that scene was fun to write, of them almost hitting each other. Wow. They're being buffeted around in the mountains and that kind of thing. There were one or two other movies, I believe, that are on YouTube. I'm not sure how much is in the archives. But...
Okay. All right. And so she goes to England, she makes films. She makes super low budget films. And then what?
And then she is just hanging out in New York at one point, lamenting, oh my God, it's the Depression. I'm having to do ads for, mascara and things like that to kind of make ends meet. Chloe was the last movie that she made. She ends up meeting this electrician from Long Island. And he is from a a first generation German family, John Mueller, Moeller. And she just decides, you know what? I'm going to say goodbye to the career. I'm going to go be a wife and mother, and I'm going to marry this electrician from Queens. And she did that for a couple of years. And supposedly they were happy for a little while. She did say, she would walk him to the train stop in the morning. He worked for the Long Island Railroad, and she'd walk him to his work in the morning and hand him his lunch and make him, like a PB&J with the crust cut off and an apple and that kind of thing. And I'm imagining her making some of that meringue for him and putting that in little cellophane packages or whatever. She'd wear her fur coat and he would wear his denim overalls or whatever to go to his job. And she knew how silly they looked with her and her fur coat on and handing him his lunch. But she said it worked for a while. And then I think she probably just got bored. She really did like that Hollywood lifestyle and missed it. And she got an offer from a guy who had been sort of a Hollywood hanger-on type, said, hey, I'm putting this review together. Let's go out on the road. And it's like January and he wants to make this run through the Midwest. So I can only imagine how pleasant that might have been. But I used the excuse of, they needed a new heater in the house or something. And she persuaded the husband, hey, I need to go do this because, we need a new heater. And he's like, yeah, okay. So that I think was probably one of the last things that she did show business wise.
Okay.
And so the marriage eventually failed. There's not much information out there about it. New York limits your access to marriage information to 100 years afterward.
Oh, wow.
So that is why we don't know what happened exactly. Okay. The information that's out there that we have says that they divorced in 1941. That is not correct. Because I managed, in all of my genealogy searching that I did for years, I learned how to order military files. I got a hold of Olive's military file. It is a gold mine. There is stuff that I found that people do not know about yet that is presented in the book because it was in the military file. I don't want to get into too much detail, but she did join the WACs during World War II. She separated from her husband and decided she was going to be patriotic and she was going to join the WACs. And the stories that we have been told by the people who have written about her in the past say that she joined the WACs. She she had a foot injury and had turned over an enemy truck. None of that happened. So, yeah, I think that was probably information that was put out there by Sibby, by her mom, to make her look a bit more heroic than she was. Yeah. And I feel like probably her mom or her are going to come back and haunt me for revealing this information after so long.
And we'll do an episode about that, by the way. So I'm just seeing this as a positive, really. But okay.
Yeah. So pick up the book and you'll get to find out finally what exactly happened with Olive. I believe that they were probably officially divorced sometime around 1943. I did find a very, very small clipping in one of the newspapers that said that she was heading to Reno for her great unhooking. So I think they probably separated in 41 and then she officially got divorced in 43. And at some point, her mother became acquainted with this lady who ran a homeless shelter for women in Los Angeles and was very sort of, gung-ho on the Christian, let's love everyone. Let's make sure they're all fed and take care of the women and the children and the prostitutes and the drug addicts. And so this homeless mission, the Sunshine Mission, took in Sibby, and then it also took in Olive.
Oh, wow.
So, I always kind of wondered, what is a war hero doing living at a homeless shelter?
And an ex-movie star.
And an ex-movie star. Why doesn't she have, if she had this foot injury, why doesn't she have any kind of benefits or anything from her service time? That was, it stuck in my cross. I'm like, I better order this military file. And we're very lucky that it still exists because there was a huge fire where all of the personnel records were stored in 1975. Oh, wow. I ordered the records for my grandfather and a couple of my uncles, and they came back singed. Like the edges of the paper were burnt.
Oh,
and those
gosh.
Out of, however big their military files were, they could save maybe 3 pages. That was all I got. Hers was like this. It still existed. The entire military file is still available. And it has all of the testimonies from the doctors that she had to talk to, the psychiatrists. It had testimonies from her mother, from her priest, from, it seems like there was somebody else that she got. She also started an affair with a naval commander named Arthur Benline. And I found out a little bit more about him. They were still conducting this affair probably post her separation, but before her divorce. So this went on, and he gave a testimony for the military. When she signed up for the WACs, she had to have these testimonies from her mother and people that knew her saying, yes, she's not a traitor to the government. She's never tried to overthrow it. She seems cool to me. Yeah, go ahead and take her in the WACs. And then the WACs found out, maybe you're not exactly what we're looking for. Your personality doesn't quite, mesh with the military mentality that we need. So, yeah.
Well, I can't wait to read this book. This is literally hot off the press, like sizzling hot off the press. When did this just came out?
Yeah, right? beginning of August.
Beginning of August.
Yes.
I have to go grab the Jell-O out of the fridge so we can add the cream. But while I'm doing that, why don't you tell people where they can find this book and your other books?
Okay, so my books are all available at Amazon and most major retailers, Barnes & Noble, Indigo Chapters, if you're in Canada, Smashwords, pretty much anywhere you look for it, it's going to be available. So if you just want to go into your local bookshop and say, hey, I want a copy of Joy Girl, it should be available for you to order if they don't have it in stock. And I am at LainiGiles.com, LainiGiles.com. And my other books are there as well.
All right. And now we are going to add the whipping cream to the Jell-O mixture. I was kind of worried this whipping cream was going to curdle. It's so hot in here. Okay. So, all right. I'm going to stir this up a little bit. And since you don't want to sit and wait for hours on end for this to get hard with us, we are going to just post online on the HollywoodKitchenShow.com website and social media how exactly this wound up turning out. So now it looks like a white star with chunks of pineapple in
Kind
it.
of pale yellow.
I'm a pale yellow.
Tropical. Should be nice and refreshing in this heat, I'm hoping.
I really hope so. I need something. Okay, I'm going to put it back in the fridge. Be right back in a second.
And my other books are about Olive Thomas, Clara Bow, and Marie Prevost. So look them up. And we're gonna be making some other episodes as well. So
all right, so I am now back. And so what is the thing? I have some more questions though about Olive Borden. What is the thing in researching this book that was the most surprising to you? Was it the military records?
the military records. Yeah, they were very juicy. And just like I was reading them and my fingers were about to catch fire. I couldn't believe the contrast between what we had been told and what actually happened.
Wow. And these are novels that you write, but they're so beautifully researched that they really are biographies, cleaning up some of my mess here.
I've had so many people say, I really wish it had been a full nonfiction book. And I'm like, I just don't feel like I have the license to be able to write nonfiction. I'm a much better fiction person because I like sort of as filtered through my imagination how I saw all of this happening. So that's why
there's so many ways to tell a story.
Yes, exactly.
And to me, if the novelized version helps bring someone to life and helps generate interest in them, then why not?
That's why I enjoy doing it. Because if somebody tells me I was up at 3 a.m. on Wikipedia looking this person up and looking up these stories, that's what I want. I want you to rediscover these ladies and find out about them and what amazing lives they led, because they led some pretty great lives. I mean, not great necessarily. It was kind of unfortunate for them, but just so colorful. There was so much going on.
Interesting.
Yeah. And if there's a little bit of detail in their life that I can research that I haven't had to research before, that's kind of what I like the most. I like learning things about people and time periods. And like with my Olive Thomas book, I didn't know anything about the Ziegfeld Follies. Now I can pretty much tell you who was in which year of the Ziegfeld Follies and what numbers they did and what costumes they wore, because a couple of the ladies that I've written about now have been in the Ziegfeld Follies. So each girl has a little bit of something new that I can research and look up, which is, if it intrigues me, that makes me want to write about it more.
Yeah, and you definitely do a tremendous amount of research into accurately depicting these people and the times in which they lived.
Thank you.
Sure.
My friend Howard, who was in my writers group, said she must have done enough this would be the equivalent of a master's degree or a PhD. I wonder if she kept an amount of the hours of research that she did. And that one was at least 5 years worth. So
well, this has been a fascinating conversation about Olive Borden. So please check out Joy Girl, the new novel of Olive Borden's life by Laini Giles. And stay tuned because I will eventually post on the website and social media how that Jell-O mold turned out. Fingers crossed. Meanwhile, Laini and I are going to go in an air-conditioned room now, the only one in my little home, and try to rest. Try to get some AC. But I do have Patreon, so if anyone wants to donate, all proceeds go to buying ingredients, test recipes, new cookbooks, all sorts of stuff. And as always, thank you all for watching Hollywood Kitchen, and please stay tuned for more food, fun, and film history.